Chavre, how are you? I hope everyone is gesund, stark, und freilich, begashmis, beruchnis. I hope everyone is healthy, strong, and happy, physically and spiritually. Today is Erev Shabbos Kodesh Parshas Devarim, Parshas Chazain. The Shabbos before Tisha B'Av. Today is Hey Menachem Hov, the Yom Meilula Stalkus of the Ariya Kodesh, the Arizal. Agav, yesterday, Daled Menachem Hov was the yahrzeit of my shver, who was a great chassid, a big masculine chassidus, Reb Nosson Reb Moshe Gerari. He should have an aliyah on the Neshama, his bet now, it's good for the ganze Mishpacha for Klal Yisrael. Tomorrow, Shabbos Vav Menachem Hov, is the yahrzeit of my mashpia, Harav HaChassid HaChayzer, one of the most famous chassidim of all time, a great masculine. Also, Rabbi Yoel HaKohen, Rabbi Rafal Nachman HaKohen Khan, Rabbi Yoel Khan. He should have an aliyah on the Neshama, his bet now, it's good for ganz Klal Yisrael and for alle seine Talmidim v'chulu. So, what's the connection between all these things? Parshas Devarim, the yahrzeit that I mentioned, and also this week is Pirkei Avos, Perik Shlishi. Let's see if we can connect all these things. And it's a Shabbos of Bein HaMitzorim, etc. Before we start, as usual, we'll give tzedakah since the war started. G'deilut tzedakah shemekareves esagula Mashiach now. We'll say a prayer as we do usually. Reino v'yanyeino v'riva riveino. Hashem, behold our affliction, now wage our battle. Ugalenu meheru l'man shemecha, ki kel gel chazakota baruch atah Hashem, gel Yisrael. Redeem us speedily for the sake of your name, for you Hashem are the mighty Redeemer. Blessed are you Hashem, Redeemer of Israel. Right now, we're in very, very historic times, and this week, following the events that happened in Iran and in Beirut, Eretz Yisrael, our brothers and sisters, besides everything else going on in Gaza, are in a state of alertness and preparedness for what might be coming. My feeling is that big miracles are coming our way, Mirz Hashem u'be'ez Hashem Yisbarach. And this is what Hashem wants to see from us. Our emunah and betochen, that everything will be fine. And the greater our emunah and betochen, the more evident and obvious will be greater and greater miracles. So this week's parsha is Parshas Devarim. The message, as we spoke last week, that Hashem speaks to us through the Parshas HaShavua, you couldn't get any better messages from Hashem that's relevant to our current circumstances. Before we get to the relevant particular message, I want to say a general statement concerning our approach to Sefer Devarim. They say, I once heard from a Chassidish, they said that by the Misnagdim, by the Litvaks, they say, let's not say Misnagdim, by the Litvische Welt, they say that Sefer Devarim is a Geschmack and Musashmus with Moshe Rabbeinu. We have the longest speech. It starts Eila Devarim. Eila is Begematria 36. It's 36 days of Moshe Rabbeinu reviewing everything that happened in the past 40 years and also giving rebuke, Teicha, as Rashi says, but in a subtle way, Derech Remez. He's able to keep our dignity, etc. So I heard a Chassidish once tell me that he heard that by the Litvische Welt besagt, das ist ein Musserschmus mit Moshe Rabbeinu. Aber mir darf man sagen, Chassidim darf man sagen, dass ein lange Verbringen mit dem Rebbe, mit Moshe Rabbeinu, and the longest Verbringen. So how Geschmack, when the image is that it's a Verbringen, and it's ein lange Verbringen mit Moshe Rabbeinu, so this is what makes Sefer Devarim special. Okay. And why? Because this is his speech. But now let's look at it more classically. What makes Devarim different than the first 4 Svarim? And Devarim is called Mishnah Torah, which means a review. So there's the Gemara in Megillah, which comes out that there's two main differences. One difference is it says that the first 4 Svarim was Shechina Medaberes Mitech Greinoi, direct. Moshe is just the speaker of Hashem, Hashem's speaker. Mashenkin Devarim Mipi Atzmoi. Moshe was saying from himself. Now obviously, Hashem is also speaking through Moshe, but this time it's united with Moshe's intellect also. Not only that it's going through Moshe, but in a way it's going with Moshe. Moshe also internalizes and digests everything that the Eibishter is saying, and then it's also coming from Moshe, as the Rebbe explains in many sichos. But then even a more basic physical difference is that the first 4 Svarim were said to the Deir HaMidbar, which is called the Deir Deya. And the words in Chumash Devarim are said to the Deir Shenichnas La'aretz, to the generation that's going into Eretz Yisrael. By the way, before I continue, I want to say that what I'm going to speak today is the Sikha in Chelik Beis, Devarim, and also a Sikha from Tafshin Daled Mem, Parshas Devarim. And I'll soon quote you the page later when we speak what it says there. So, what this means practically, let's go back to the last word that we just said, that the Sefer Devarim is to the Deir Shenichnas La'aretz, which means that this is real time, real talk, dealing with a real world. Elam Hazeh. In other words, till now, in a way, the Yidden were living in fantasy land, Baruch Hashem. Mamish Gan Eden. Anani HaKoved, Be'er Shel Miriam, Mon. So it's completely spiritual life. Away from modern society. No New York City, no Las Vegas, no Paris, no London. Mamish, Anani HaKoved. And that's one of the reasons why the Meraglim didn't want to go into Eretz Yisrael, because they enjoyed it. It's Gishmak. It's Kulei Ruchnis. There's no temptations. There's no struggles. You're in the power of Hashem. And it's totally spiritual. But the truth is that this was not the intention. When the Eibishter said, Vasalim Migdash V'Shachanti Ba'aretz, the whole point and the whole purpose is to come till now. The dream, the purpose, the culmination, the destination is Eretz Yisrael, Yerushalayim, Ira Kodesh, and Beis HaMikdash. That's the whole point. As the Eibishter promised Avram that he's going to get Eretz Yisrael, and he gave Eretz Yisrael to the Yidden. And the whole tachlis of Am Yisrael is in Eretz Yisrael together with Hashem Echad. And until we get there, we didn't fulfill our purpose. So the idea is that there's a nation, Am Yisrael, and this land technically belongs, Hashem gave it to other people first, and then we have a mission of transformation and transforming the physical into the spiritual. And this is what it means, B'chlal, when we say Eretz Yisrael, as the Maimon Zal says, Eretz Sharos Alas V'Tzein Koina, the land which runs to do Hashem's will or wants to do Hashem's will. It's a holy land. It's a land where the divinity is revealed. And this is what it means to every single Jew, even when he's living in Melbourne, or in Caracas, Venezuela, or Morocco, or wherever he lives, as the famous story of the Tzemach Tzedek, with a Jew who wanted to move to Eretz Yisrael, and the Tzemach Tzedek told him, Mach do Eretz Yisrael. Make here Eretz Yisrael, which means do the work of transforming the physical, elevating the physical, sublimating the physical, channeling the physical to bring out the spiritual, which is in the physical. And then that means you're making Israel here. So that's the idea. So let's get back to the message, which is very explicit. At the end of the parsha, it speaks about how Moshe Rabbeinu speaks to the Shevet of Gad and Ruvain, and he tells them how they're going to have to go out to war to conquer Eretz Yisrael. And then he says, Moshe says, "V'Yeshua tzivesi beisa hileimar inecha reis Eis kol asher osa Hashem lekechem l'shnei malachim ha'ele. Moshe tells Yeshua, just like you see the miracles that happened concerning Oig Melech HaBashan, etc. So too, Ken Yas Hashem l'chol mamlachas asher ata Ever Shama, Hashem will help you in your wars that we are going to need to conquer Eretz Yisrael. Leiti Rome, Ki Hashem Elokeichem Hu Anilcham Lechem. My friends, this is the end of this week's parasha. Wow! Take it personal to the year 2024, Tafshin Pei Dalet, and our current situation in Eretz Yisrael. You shall not fear them, for Hashem, your Hashem, He is the one who shall wage war for you. Okay, so now let's go back to the Avodas Hashem. What does it all mean? So, we're saying that in this week's Parsha, we start the Sefer where Moshe is talking to the generation that are going into Eretz Yisrael. New reality, new temptations, new struggle, new challenges. Now what? So first of all, as the Alter Rebbe says in chapter 25, we're going to give an example. It's a famous piece of the Alter Rebbe, where the Alter Rebbe says, why did Moshe Rabbeinu in Sefer Devarim say to the generation that's going to the land, Likres Kishma Pamayim B'chol Yoim Lekabel Malchus Shamayim B'Mesiras Nefesh V'Leivtiach Lem Pardechem Erachem Yitna Hashem B'Goymer. If they were already promised that the enemy shall flee, the enemy shall fear you, so what do they have to be forewarned right now? Remember, be ready to give up your life for Hashem. No one's having to give up their life. It's going to be miracles, miracles, miracles all the way. So why is he telling us this? So the Alter Rebbe says, because we're not talking about the enemy from without. We're talking about the enemy from within. We're not talking about the goy that's outside. We're talking about the goy shebekirbecha. Since now you're going to be in the land of internet and in the land of shtus and vavolim, hot dogs and pizza and beer and who knows what. Not in the land of Ananiya Kovid and lechem and hashemayim. But you're going to be dealing with struggles, etc. So now you have to know what's the way to be able to overcome all the struggles. You should know Likres Kishma Pamayim B'chol Yoim Lekabel Malchus Shamayim B'Mesiras Nefesh. And now to see the answer of the Alter Rebbe, the way the Alter Rebbe puts it, Ela Poshet Ela Mishum Shekim Ateiru Mitzvaseh Tluyi B'zeh Sheyizkir Tamid Inyi Mesiras Nefesh La'avad Elichudei Sheyir Kavua B'Libai Tamid Mamish Yemam V'Layla L'Yomish Mizichreinei. As the Alter Rebbe elaborated, starting from chapter 18, this was 25, that when a person lives with this idea, that every single move he makes, every single step he makes, is either an opportunity to connect and to attach himself more solidly with Hashem, which is the idea of Achdus Hashem, or, Rahman al-Atzlan, if he doesn't do that, then every step could turn into something which will create a barrier, a separation. He'll be ripped away from his source. And that's the concept of Achdus Hashem. So the Alter Rebbe says, when you live with this idea, this is what he means. When you live with this idea, like he says, that when a Yid, and this is the whole idea of Mesiras Nefesh al Yichudei, what does it mean that there was Mesiras Nefesh throughout the generations, and this is a Jewish trait, that if he knows that something will separate himself, something will cause him to be separated from Hashem, then he would never do that. And that's why a Jew always chooses Mesiras Nefesh. If we live with this idea, connection, disconnection, attachment, or torn away, then you'll make the right choice. And because going into Eretz Yisrael means the first time that we're going to deal with challenges and struggle and opposition and adversity, so therefore, this was the message before they were going into Eretz Yisrael. So this is an example of what does it mean when we're speaking to the Deir, Shenichnis La'aretz, We're talking to the Devarim Midbar. Such language you didn't have to tell the Devarim Midbar because they didn't face such challenges in the first place. So that's Sefer Devarim. So now the Rebbe explains what is the significance of Shevet God connected to war. So the Rebbe connects this with the pasuk, and this is in the Sikha of Parshas Devarim, Tafshin Daled Mem. See their page. Oi, let me get the right page. See their page 23, Parshas Devarim, Tafshin Daled Mem. So there he says, we see the pasuk later in Zes HaBracha when it speaks about Shevet God and what was their special quality. It says, "V'torav zroya af kodkeit." They're like a lion that's able to wipe away, strike off the arm and the head of their enemies. The lion, when he wants to chase his prey and be able to conquer it, with one swipe, he knocks off the head and the arm. That's what the pasuk says, describes Shevet God when it comes to conquering Eretz Yisrael. So the Rebbe explains, what does this mean? There's two general obstacles that prevent the Yid from being successful in this avodah of Machto Eretz Yisrael. One of them is a mental perspective, a mental block, an approach, an attitude which is wrong, which is one person could think to himself, a Yid could think to himself, and by the way, this year we felt it very much so in a certain sense. Who are we, B'chlal, the Jewish nation? Atem ha'ma'at mikol ha'amim. We're less than 1% of the entire global population. And I don't want to take it even further amongst the Jews themselves, that those that are protesting and whatever, who knows what. And the whole world is marching against the war and ceasefire, as we saw previously in this year, with all the marching and protesting going on in all the universities and in London and in different countries. It's pretty daunting. It could seem pretty scary. So what do I need it for? The Jew, a Yid, could tell himself, you know what? Like it says in many sikhs of the Rebbe, he says, I'll be a Jew at home and a guy in the street. Why do I have to flaunt it? Why should I draw attention to myself? The pasuk itself says, "Atam ha'ma'at mikol ha'amim." We are a minority of minorities of minorities. What chance do we have against the entire whole wide world? And actually, we see right now with our very eyes that the world is against us. And like the Rebbe told Bibi Netanyahu, that the United Nations is a house of lies. And he told Bibi, you be the light, the one candle that will illuminate the darkness, the bit of light that will illuminate much darkness. So if a person wakes up in the morning, a person can wake up in the morning and he can be scared out of his wits. Hello, imagine, I'm telling you, the entire world is against you. And you're a minority of the minority, the greatest minority. How can we succeed going against this enormous, gigantic opposition? That's one problem. That's the problem of Kodkeit. It's the approach, it's the attitude that you have this perspective. Then we have another problem. Zroya is not a perspective, but Zroya means your connection to physical objects, your materialism. So the other argument is, you know what? Why should I, spend more time in shul or making davening and learning a priority, the spiritual, when I look around with the naked eye and I think about my bodily needs and what I need to survive, how much money I need to earn to be able to support the family. When I think of materialism, it seems, again, same idea. It seems like the materialism seems like it's very huge, very big, very strong. The world is a dog-eat-dog world. The wicked prosper. Sometimes a person could think like that. It's an alma de shikra. So why should I put so much emphasis in spirituality? I'll be more attached to the physical things. I'm not going to let go of spirituality completely, because then I'll just be plain animal. So therefore the Rebbe says you have to realize the approach has to be, and that's why the parsha ends off with Yeshua Tzivesi, that Moshe says, I commanded Yeshua. What does it mean, Yeshua? Yeshua is the one that Moshe Rabbeinu changed his name from Heshaya to Yeshua. Rashi says, Ko Yeshiyacha me'atzas meraglim. Similar idea. There's a Yeshua. He has the majority. 10 are against him. But since the Moshe Rabbeinu brought out a special connection of Yeshua with Hashem, Ko Yeshiyacha me'atzas meraglim. So no matter what the opposition is, as mis verbunden oben fällt man schon unten. If you're connected above, you don't fall down below. So therefore, remember, and this is what the end of the parsha is, it starts with a person like Yeshua, connecting yourself to Hashem. You add Koh to the name Yeshua. You add Hashem. Once you're connected to infinity, once you know it's a Jewish nation, Henam levadud yishkoin, so you don't have to worry about any physical laws of nature or any physical laws of survival or any history of any other nation. We have to look at Eretz Yisrael, look at the 48th war, look at the 67 war, look at the 73 war, where the Rebbe said even that was even greater miracles in a way, and look at every single matzav where we see clearly Hashem Yishmarcha, Shem Esam Yisrael. We see that every single thing that's going on is a survival which has nothing to do with the laws of nature. And the Rebbe says, once we have that foundation, that it's Yeshua, then we have to know that it's Taka should be the Torah of Zeraya Afkoded in one swipe, with one move. You should get rid of the wrong mental perspective. And the same thing, the problem of Zeraya, the Kotkid perspective, which it could hold you back, which has to be taken away, and the Zeraya perspective that you want to be attached to physicality. What's the one swipe, the one move? The one move, the Rebbe says, is what the Rebbe Rashab said, that we have to do the Avodas HaBerurim, Chatei v'achel, Chatei v'shti, which means, as soon as you're in any situation where it's a question of gaining, advancing, growing, adding, spirituality, go. Don't think about the cheshbonos. Are you ready for this? Are you not ready for this? Maybe I should start small. No. Chatei v'achel, chatei v'shti. Chaparein. It should be one swipe, one blow. And in one blow, you turned on the light to such a degree that it took care of all the problems in the first place. So that's what the Rebbe says in the Sikha in Parshas Devarim Toshin Daled Mem. But in that Sikha Gufa, he also connects it with another Rashi in this week's Parsha, which takes this point of conquering the land, and he shows us another case scenario which is so amazing. And that is where the Pasuk says, in Kapitel Beis, Pasuk Chav Gimel, it says that there was a nation, they were called the Avim, Hayeshim b'chatzerim ad Aza. Interesting, who dwell in open cities until Gaza. The Kaftorim hayitzim mikvar, mikaftoir, hishmidum vayeshu tachtam. There was the Kaftorim who came from Kafta. They destroyed the Avim and then dwelled in their place. And Rashi comes and tells us another whole situation. And this is what the Rebbe says, such a mighty lesson. That even though till now we were speaking about engagement and how do we elevate? We elevate by getting involved. Not being separate and saying a Jew at home and going in the street, but on the contrary, being a Yid in the street. And being very active with a proactive, in a way aggressive, positively aggressive, ambitious, so to speak, in a positive way. That's one idea. But then the Rebbe says there's another idea. Listen to this. The story with the Avim, Rashi says, was that Avim were from Plishtim. And it says that Avram made a oath. This is what Rashi says. Because he made an oath to Avimelech, therefore there was a pact, a covenant, a friendship. They made a bond between themselves, a pact, that they're going to be nice. So therefore, Yidden can never attack the Avim that come from Plishtim, where there was such a pact that they would never harm each other. So what does the Eibishter do? The Eibishter orchestrates it. Hashem says, I brought the Kafterim against them. The Kafterim destroyed the Avim and dwelled in the place. Now you could take it from the Kafterim. So the Rebbe in that Farbrengen interpreted in such a way. You know why Avram made this bond with them in the first place? Because Avram saw that the Plishtim were on a too low level, debased, decadent, too muddy, too dirty, too problematic for a Yid to elevate. So therefore he made a pact with them. And this is what the Eibishter did, was sometimes, like we have in the world news, when the Rebbe spoke about the first Gulf War, the biggest miracle was that Israel didn't have to raise a hand, and all the Gentiles made a coalition and protected Eretz Yisrael. That was the biggest miracle, and the Rebbe said that is the biggest miracle. So too, the Rebbe explains Pshat over here. Because the Avim is too coarse, too thick. It's a case, it's a diagnosis which cannot be elevated right now in a refined way. The Jewish touch won't do it. We need the Kaftoidim. They can get down and dirty, really, really, whatever that means, to the level of the Avim. Once the Kaftoidim are there, which they didn't make a pact with Avram, I'm saying the simple meaning over here, then the Yidden can then elevate the Kaftoidim. That's how the Rebbe learns Pshat. And from this, the Rebbe takes an amazing lesson. That even though in general the word of Chassidus and Moshe Shem Tov and everything is engagement, lasses leis baruch dira b'tachtonim, to make a dira b'tachtonim, guess what? There's sometimes a situation where you should stay spiritual and let someone else get involved in the mundane dimensions of your work. And I have to read it to you inside, in the Rebbe's words, to see what the Rebbe learns Pshat. It's so gishmak. He says, from here we have a lesson, this is page 2323 of Esvadus Tovshin Dal Mem Chelik Dalid. You have a Jew, who's a Yeshiv Oil, he's a Ben Torah, he learns Torah. And his avoid is of Yisachar, Yisachar Be'elecha, in the tent of Torah. So when this person his work is to learn Torah, and he decides he wants to have the advantage of the Zvulun Jew, who goes out into the world, elevates the world, like the Dersh Nichnas Haaretz. He wants to work the land, and he wants to have the advantage of Mori of Netavim, and their main work is Bitter Olam, extracting sparks. I didn't explain that, I should have explained it before. Time is running out, sorry. Anyways, we tell him that this Avodah is not your Avodah. Your job is to learn Torah. If you're Rosh Hashiva, L'chadish b'Torah. Write Svarim. Come up with new concepts, questions and answers, dissertations in Torah logic. If you're a Rav, you're a rabbi, Lifsik Shilas b'Torah. Your job is to be involved in the Shilas Chuvas, questions and learning, and people that need clarification in Jewish law. And Kamei Kain Lechanech es Bonov Shiyu Rosh Yeshivas Rabbonim. Educate your children to be Rosh Yeshivas and Rabbonim. And the same thing is when you get to physical matters, mundane things. He says, L'zois yidagu umas ha'olam. If the government is going to give you grants for certain things, because you're into life-saving, because you're into building a better community, because your yeshiva makes better law-abiding citizens, so then Baruch Hashem, you don't have to go out and fundraise if the government is supporting you. I'm giving you an example. That they themselves are worried about it to give millions of dollars for Jewish education in religious schools, so that every single person can be mechanech their children with the spirit of Torah and Yiddishkeit without any worries whatsoever of mundane concerns. That's what the Rebbe says over there. And this is the analogy, this is the lesson from the story of the Avim. That just like in the case of the Avim, we needed the Kaftorim to take care of the Avim. You don't have to worry about it, but then you could do your thing. And the same thing's over here. There are some matters of this world, some birurim, some elevation that might be too grub, too coarse for you to get involved in yourself, and therefore someone else, somehow the Eibishter will orchestrate it, that someone else will take care of it, and meanwhile you can sit and daven, you can sit and learn and remain spiritual. This is the connection between the Pirkei Avos this week, which is one of my favorite Mishnahs, my personal favorite Mishnah, Kol HaMakabel Level Torah, Ma'avir Mimenu El Malchus Ve'el Derech Eretz, it's in Perek Shlishi, V'chol HaPerek Mimenu El Torah, Neistan Olav El Malchus Ve'el Derech Eretz, where I can't elaborate now, we're so much out of time and it's going to go longer. He says over there, whoever accepts upon himself the yoke of learning and davening, so then the yoke of Malchus, which means government, and Derech Eretz means financial worries, is taken away from you. Because the truth is, the Jew has to realize the natural habitat of a year is davening and learning. And the whole Dira B'Tachtonim is either because now we're still in Golus and we have to make a Dira B'Tachtonim, no problem. But even then, the focus of a Chabad house, the focus of the Jewish nation is chinuch, Jewish education. That's what it's really all about. Everything really is about chinuch and Torah mitzvahs. The rest is only so it should be possible to be happening. So therefore we have to raise money. Therefore we have to have certain things. But we have to remember what's the real pnimius, the objective of everything is the Torah mitzvahs. So therefore, Kol HaMakabel of El Torah, the one who takes upon himself to be the one who's going to bear learning Torah, and he's going to be dedicated and devoted to it, then what happens is the Eibusha takes the natural forces of government and commerce and makes it in such a way that that's not a worry for you. Because you dedicated yourself to the higher calling, and the truth is that everything else was just a means to an end. You already are at the end, what it's really all about. That's the connection to the Mishnah. That's also the connection with Mashver, Reb Nosson Gerari. Reb Nosson Gerari and Reb Yael Khan. They're both into Chassidus. And that's the way they live their life. They're on this planet Earth, but they're really somewhere else. Life was about learning Chassidus. Life was about Yediyas Elikos. Life was about talking about the Eses Sfiras Hagnuzis. Life was talking about Elikus B'Pshitis, Eined Mulvade. That's what life is about. And when you live your life in such a way, then you're in the world and able to elevate the world properly. And this is also the connection to the Arizal. I can't get into it now. I'm going to give you where to look. Today's Hayom Yom is a Torah of the Baal Shem Tov on the verse Sur Me'Rava, say Tev, Bakashol V'Redfeu. Turn away from evil, do good, and seek peace. And see the Hayom Yom of 5 Menachem Av, where the Baal Shem Tov explained it to mean when you look at a physical thing, turn away from evil. Don't look at it for its physicality. Don't give it a value or a preciousness which is outside godliness. There's only Hashem. And the only way to live your life in a proper way is if you stay focused on what's really going on. When you see an apple, don't look at the apple and say, it tastes so good. And life was meant for me to be able to enjoy it. And I live to enjoy life. No. There's godliness even in the apple. It's energy, godly energy. And I don't live to eat, I eat to live. I should realize that it's about me extracting the energy, the nitzutzes, the sparks of godliness that are in this apple, and then using the energy that I got from the apple to serve. I eat to live. And why do I live? To get involved in a cause which is greater than myself. I live to serve a greater purpose. That's what he says in Yom Yom. And it's the Baal Shem Tov, because this was the main point of Chasidus, as we know from also the Yom Yom of, I think, Chof Cheshvat, the famous Torah of the Baal Shem Tov, Kisireh Chamer Senacho, that without Chasidus they looked at the physical as the enemy. And over here the whole point is, make peace. There's a friction between the physical and the spiritual, but the ultimate is, when you realize that it's the spiritual dimension of the physical, which is the primary thing, then you bring peace to the physical, that we don't have to negate physical or crush physical. The way of serving Hashem is in a way of make me, don't break me. We channel it all. Ozav, Tazav, Imoy. We work with the physical and we show really how the ultimate beauty of the physical is when we reveal the spiritual which was within the physical, and they become one. So this was the Arizal. As we all know, that in Kabbalah of the Arizal was very much about the sparks, the Shviras HaKelim, connected to the idea of Tikkun Olam, which the real meaning of Tikkun Olam means that we extracted the sparks from Toyu that fell, the divinity which is in the physical, and how we caused the spiritual to become dominant and superior in the physical by using it for the right purposes and causing spiritual to dominate. That's how we bring out the purpose of what the physical was created for in the first place. Just to finish with the humorous story, which is I'm not gonna do it justice, but there's a famous story, a famous joke to bring out, to explain what I mean with the story with the Avim before, how other people do more than mundane work. In the days before Israel, Eretz Yisrael became a state. So we were living under British rule, and there was a couple of resistance movements from the Jews. I forgot the names. Haganah, Irgun, I forgot right now. Anyways, one of these Yiddish people that was part of the resistance and the underground movements was captured by the British, and he's in jail. And they want to find out information from this person, but he's not saying anything. But meanwhile, they're allowing him to correspond with his wife through letters. So he sends his wife a letter, something like, all those guns that were smuggled in to help our cause, it's all buried in the back garden, Anyways, it comes to his wife. A day later, the British soldiers show up and they plow his garden back through and through, upside down, inside out. They spend the whole day digging. They don't find no guns, they don't find no rifles. They're so upset, they didn't find anything. The next day, the prisoner writes to his wife, now you can plant the seeds for the next crop of potatoes and cabbage and corn, v'chulu. So he figured out a way how to take care of his garden, his field, because he got the British Army to do it instead of himself. Baruch Hashem. And now he can sit wherever he's sitting in prison and chazeh, psukim, balpeh, or whatever it is. And he got the British Army to do the hard labor. So the Eibusher should help. That this should be, right now we should see Mamish Shabbos Chazain, the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi was shown, and we should see it coming down Mamish. Begula mitzvah shleima, take it from Yad Mamish. But before that, we have to prepare ourselves with miracles and ligin and hechel and yanim. Say Tilim, learn Gemara, learn Chassidus, give tzedakah, do a mitzvah, increase in the emunah b'tochen. The more positivity, the more hope, we bring down more miracles, more redemption, and the Eibusher should help. We should take a seat even before Shabbos. It should be the Geula Mitzvah Shleima, take it from Yad Mamish. Posting from my home, your man, Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, your man in Melbourne.